I'm very honored to be interviewing Mayor Nir Barkat. Thank you very much for
My pleasure.
letting me do this interview. Very briefly, if we can you tell me in your own words what are the major challenges of being the mayor of Jerusalem? Briefly.
Well, Jerusalem has huge potential, huge future. And I see my role as fulfilling and exploiting the huge potential Jerusalem has as a destination for pilgrims, as a center of the world, as a place where you can develop, which was never divided to tribes, that all tribes feel comfortable in Jerusalem. Develop the theme of the city of Jerusalem. Make sure tens of millions of people around the world can enjoy and come to Jerusalem, and let it fulfill the role it played 2,000 and 3,000 years ago. So it's developing the city to its potential.
Okay. Well, and as you're saying, Jerusalem is considered, you want to make it into a unified, single city. How successful have you been in implementing policies to unify the city and to provide consistent policies across different neighborhoods?
Well, the nice part about Jerusalem, that again, it has all tribes in it. And on the one hand, you have to develop the city, tourism, culture, develop the center, the business economics of it, and everyone takes part of that theme. And so developing Jerusalem's tourism, religious, spiritual, cultural, sportive, and others, is a common theme and a common denominator accepted by all tribes. And the other part of it is actually look at the differences between the different sectors of Jerusalem, not as a problem, but as a feature, and enable certain degrees of freedom for people to worship their faith their way, develop their neighborhood according to their priorities. And what we do is we work with community councils, local leadership in the different neighborhoods, and adopt the municipal services to the needs of the residents. So there's a certain degree of variance within the city, which is fine, which you want to exploit the differences between the tribes, Jews, Muslims, Christians, and between them there are different threads and sectors, but also work as a common theme, which is of course similar to all. You have to manage that common denominator and differences in a wise way. Thank God it's working quite well in Jerusalem.
Okay, well, very specifically, anti-Israel groups will often complain that Jerusalem municipality makes it nearly impossible for Arabs living in some neighborhoods to receive building permits, while Jews can get them much easier. And that's the reason they say that, that buildings are being torn down predominantly in the Arab neighborhoods. Is this true? Do you have any statistics you can share with us?
Jerusalem is a 3,000-year-old city. Everywhere you put a shovel in the ground, you find roots in history, Jewish history and others. And so the biggest challenge we have is how to develop the city in a prudent and wise way. Indeed, some of the challenges we have in the Arab neighborhoods, that the land is not registered to people, and so sometimes it's difficult to know who really owns it to give permit. And it's unlike other places in the world, in the common Western world. The fact of the matter is, though, the Arab population has been scaling faster than the Jewish population. We have about 160,000 apartments which are owned by Jews in Jerusalem. We have about 60,000 owned by Arabs in Jerusalem, approximately. By the way, not all of them are registered. And the fact is that the city population is being growing, the Arab population is being growing faster than the Jewish population. So the absurdity is that indeed we have, unfortunately, we had a history of significant illegal structures and buildings built without permit. And we're in the process of, as much as, as liberal as one can, actually enable rezoning of some of the Arab neighborhoods, deal with the challenge that unfortunately I received. And if anything, you could see today that the residents of Jerusalem, the Arab residents of Jerusalem, are much happier with the changes we're doing in order to enable them to get permits. There are big numbers. Just in the last 4 years, we registered in the municipality over 10,000 new apartments that have got registered, and we're in the process of helping them get some permits. So the numbers are far, far from what is heard in the media. Don't listen to too much media.
Okay. Do you feel pressure from the international community or from other actors in the Arab world or anything like that as far as what you can and cannot do? Do you feel like your hands are ever tied by outside pressure?
There's an absurdity in the pressure coming from the world, sometimes from the administrations of even the United States. There was a period of hinting or challenging Israel and Jerusalem about freezing the buildings, freeze building in Jerusalem. So I asked the administration, what do you really mean? Because we've just been investing over $500 million shekels in infrastructures and roads. We were building 500 classrooms, catching up. That's 50% of the neglect. We're catching up very, very fast.
500 classrooms both, you mean specifically Arab sector? Or
just in the Arab sector.
Okay.
Just in the Arab sector. Because unfortunately there was a gap that was neglected in the past, and we're catching up quite fast. And we've been registering many, many buildings of the residents in East Jerusalem. And my question was, what do you mean by freeze? Freeze everything? Or God forbid, is somebody hinting, wait a minute, before you give somebody a permit, check him out. If he's Jewish, freeze him. And if he's a Muslim Christian, give him a license? What do you really mean when you say freeze, where we have one law, one zoning code for every neighborhood, pending like everywhere else in the world, it's quite standard. We're converging to catch up with neglect, building, helping people get a license. Stop everything, or God forbid, does anybody hint, and we're 2013, that any administration in the world is hinting us to look at the color of the skin, to look at people's religion before we give them a permit and a license? Usually, I don't get any answers back.
So I was going to ask you what the response normally is when you say something like that.
They don't respond.
Okay. And from your perspective, everyone should be able to live any Jerusalem resident should be able to move to any other part of Jerusalem.
Today, there are more Arab residents living in Jewish predominant neighborhoods than Jews living in Arab predominant neighborhoods. It's usually a challenge because for Arabs to live in Jewish neighborhoods, there's no security hazard. They naturally can walk everywhere they want. And unfortunately, there's still some challenges for Jews that live in predominant Arab neighborhoods in Jerusalem, unlike other places in the world. And again, it's a triple standard. I call it a triple standard. The world has a standard. They expect us, which is, by the way, fine with me, to have a higher standard than the world in terms of how we deal with ourselves and how we deal with people, which I'm fine. I'm willing for the world to accept us to catch up with a higher standard. However, sometimes our neighbors and some people don't expect anything from Arab residents in Jerusalem. For example, they could build illegally. Why do people expect people, it's fine to build illegal, and when we're talking about the municipality and we're trying to help them, we're not allowed to help. If we don't help, there's neglect. If we help, then why are we doing what we're doing? I think that the best thing to do, the only thing to do, is to be very honest with people. To do the right thing, focus on rezoning, and be liberal as much as you can. Enable people to build, improve quality of life, invest in infrastructure, catch up with unfortunate past neglect, but be very, very honest and work according to the law. And don't discriminate people not by their religion, the color of the skin, or anything else. That's the standard we're sticking to.
There's but speaking of, like, again, Jews in Arab neighborhoods, even if they don't live there are certain neighborhoods that are considered really dangerous for Jews to visit. Issawiya, there was incidents there, and I could also mention, I know there were incidents on Har Zaytim, that the rock throwing for people that want to visit that are trying to visit the grave. I mean, it's already considered. Hey, people are already thinking twice about even visiting their own relatives that are buried there. What's being done by the municipality in order to help that?
Let me give you some statistics. We've shared some statistics, relative statistics between crime rates in Jerusalem and Chicago, Los Angeles, Atlanta, Philadelphia, major American cities. We have 1/20th per capita murders. In other words, for every 20 murders per capita in the States, in the major cities, we have one. And crime, by the way, is related to that. Jerusalem is one of the safest cities in the world. Our crime rates in the last 2 years have decreased 15%. So what is happening, by the way, in Jerusalem, our economy has been growing, our budgets and are scaling 8 to 10% in the last 4 years, year after year after year. So with the growth of the economy, which is very different than the rest of the world, we have decrease in crime rates and increase in the economic growth. And just look around the city, you'll find so many cranes in the air, which are a great sign for people believing in the future of the city. That together in my mind, is proof that the city is going in the right way. And so we have some challenges, but the challenges we have are really much, much smaller than any mayor of any American city has in front of him. And if there are, unfortunately, still neighborhoods in the States that I'm not sure you want to go to, or in Europe that sometimes people don't want to go to, unfortunately, we still have some of that. Har HaZeitim, by the way, is very, very different. Har HaZeitim, in the last 2-3 years, we've been installing significant infrastructure to waive and reduce crime, and we're actually restoring the most important cemetery in the world, which has huge history. There's a police station there, and it's one of the safest places to visit. I just was there last week. Amazing how it looks like, and as a matter of fact, we've been developing the whole infrastructure for tourism around Har HaZeitim, and it's going very, very well.
That's good to know. What would you consider to be your greatest accomplishment as mayor so far?
Well, there are a few points. First of all, our culture tourism, which is very complementary to the Holy City, is rocketing. And indeed, we see that Jerusalem is scaling quite fast to the goal I set of reaching 10 million tourists a year. Just to give some people perspective, New York has 50 million tourists, Rome has 40 million, Paris and London have over 50 again. And a few years ago, Jerusalem had just a little bit over 2 million tourists a year. We're now at a run rate of 4 million tourists a year, and the growth of tourism, the investments in infrastructure for culture, sports, and education is very fast, and I'm very happy with the trend. It in turn creates dynamics, very bullish, and very makes Jerusalem more attractive for the young population, for investors, for tourists and visitors. And that is helping us fulfill the vision I shared with you earlier, which is exploit the huge potential Jerusalem has. So I think Jerusalem is going in the right direction in terms of its role in the world, its role in Israel, and we're step by step making progress towards that goal.
Great. And my final question is, one of your predecessors as mayor ended up becoming prime minister. Do you have any further political ambition?
No.
Not at all?
No. I'm happy with my role. As long as the public wants me, I'm here.
Great. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.